Good morning, everyone. Hey, I had some requests to do exercise 2 and 3 for this special focus energy and climate change. So we'll go through these as well. And then I'm going to send you guys another video going through the cow free response. And then I'm going to let you guys do the car one. Those are kind of the two that we would have done in class. So here we have an exercise 2. There's a couple things that I found in this that make it a little bit hard. So it says, consider a wind turbine that's rated at 1.5 megawatts. This means with sufficiently high winds, it will produce 1.5 megawatts or 1,500 kilowatts of power. It doesn't tell you how, like, is that per hour, per minute? So that's one thing that I think they goofed on. The installed cost of this turbine is 1.5 million. There's lots of 1.5s in this, which I thought was interesting. Okay, if this turbine runs at a rated power of 100%, which it doesn't, of the time for a full year, how much energy would it produce? So you've got 1,500 kilowatts, and that comes from here. And then this 365 days times 24 hours will get you 8,760 hours per year. So you multiply those together. And again, these are done based on not having a calculator. You guys will have a calculator. So I put everything in scientific notation. So this one is 1.314 times 10 to the 7th, or about 13 million kilowatt hours per year. Okay, so that's the first one. Then number 2 says wind turbine has a capacity factor of 0.38. That means it's 38% efficient. So what we need to do is we need to multiply this 13 million, or the 13,140,000, by 0.38. And when we do that, we get about 5 million kilowatt hours per year. So 4,993,200. So we can round that up to 5 million. Then we go to the next one. It says, over the next 20 years, U.S. annual electric energy consumption is projected to increase by 1.5 trillion kilowatt hours per year. How many 1.5 megawatt wind turbines would be needed to supply 10% of this additional energy? So we're going to take, right here is 1.5 times 10 to the 12th. That's 1.5 trillion. Okay, so I put it in scientific. And then times by 0.1, which is 10%. And then I divided it by 5 times 10 to the 6th, which is the capacity factor for one of these. So one of these will do 5 million kilowatt hours per year, and we want to know how many turbines we're going to need. So that's giving us the power of one turbine, so we get about 30,000 turbines. So calculating the cost of these, so you've got 30,000, and then up here, each one of these is 1.5 million. So 30,000, or 3 times 10 to the 5th, times 1.5 times 10 to the 6th. So 3 times 1.5, or 3 times 15, gives us 45. So that's why I put this in scientific. And then that's 5 plus 6 is 11, but we moved the decimal over. So somehow the decimal is over, and we ends up being 45 billion. I had to check that again. That looks a little suspicious. All right, number 5, let's scoot this up, is assuming the electric energy produced by these turbines is worth 5 cents per kilowatt hour. These turbines would generate electricity worth $7.5 billion per year. So calculate the simple payback period for these turbines. So how long does it take us to pay back? So the 45 is here, 45 billion for the 30,000 turbines, and then 7.5 is the billion per year that they make by generating electricity, so about 6 years. Okay, so that's part 2. Hopefully that helps. And then let's look at part 3 on the next page. So here we're talking about photovoltaic power, and so that's abbreviated PV. So in this first part, it talks about a grid-connected residential PV system is placed on the roof of a 2,000 square foot suburban house. The area is 50 square meters, so that's about 500 square feet, covers half of the south-facing part of the roof. Power rating for this PV system is 5 kilowatts, meaning it will produce 5 kilowatts, and this is another one, they don't tell you per minute, per hour, or anything like that. Under peak light conditions. The installed cost is $50,000. The PV system is operating in a location where the annual average daily incident solar energy, or the insolation, on the array is about 5 kilowatts per meter squared per day. So calculate the average amount of solar energy on this PV array. So we're going to take the 50 meters squared, which was how much we installed up here, and then we've got 5 kilowatt hours per meter squared per day. So the meter squared is going to cancel out, and then we get 250 kilowatt hours per day. So number 2, the efficiency of the PV system is 10%. So it's less than the wind power. So 10% of the solar energy on the array is transformed into useful electric power. So calculate the daily average electric energy produced on the system in kilowatt hours per day. So we're just going to take the 250 and move the decimal over. So 250 times 10% gives us 25. So that one's pretty straightforward. Number 3, I've got our lovely calculations over here to the side. Calculate the average amount of electric energy produced by the system each year. So we're going to take the 25 from this question above, and then 365 is our days per year. And so over here I've done it by hand to show you can do it. And that gives us 9,100, so 9,125 kilowatt hours per year. Okay, on this next one, over 20 years, the U.S. annual electric energy consumption is predicted to increase by 1.5 trillion kilowatt hours per year. How many of these systems will we need to supply 10% of this additional energy? So we're going to take the 1.5 trillion and put it right here, and we're going to times that by 0.1, which is 10%. Let me scoot this up. Then we're going to take, this is 0.165 is the 1.5 times 10 to the 11th, which is this right here, the trillion. So you take 12 times by 0.1, 1.5 times 10 to the 11th. And then the 9.1 times 10 to the third is this right here. So we just take the 50 trillion, or the 1.5 trillion, and divide it by the amount of energy produced by one of these systems per year. And then that gives us 1.6 times 10 to the 7th, which is 16 million systems will be needed. Calculate the cost of installing these. So you take the systems needed times the cost, which is 50,000, and that gives you $80 billion. So 8 times 10 to the 11th. And then down here it says, assuming the electrical energy produced by these PVC systems is worth 10 cents per kilowatt hour, and the residential systems would generate electric energy worth 15 billion per year. So this is kind of like the last question on the one on the page before with the wind turbines. So how long is it going to take us to pay this off? So if we have 80 times 10, so I'm not sure why it's not 80 times 11. Oh, this was 8. So we did 80. The reason I did 80 is because 80 divided by 15 is easier to do by hand. So anyway, you guys would go 8.0 times 10 to the 11th. So I moved the decimal over 1. And then we've got 15 times 10 to the 9th, which is that one right there. So that's 15 billion. And if we just divide these, and they'll take about 53 years to pay that off. So anyway, hope that helps. I'm going to make another one right now for the cow for response, and I will put them in 2 different places. So hopefully that'll be helpful. Let me know if I can help by emailing, or we may have a Google Meet next week. Thanks, guys.